action-packed multiplayer video game to see who will make it big in Spongebob Squarepants Lights, Camera, Pants. Available now. Game and system sold separately.
After the success of Mario Party, we saw several other studios that tried to replicate what Nintendo had brought to the table, all with varying success. Shrek Super Party, Sonic Shuffle, Pac-Man Fever, Fuzion Frenzy, and one that I grew up with was Spongebob Squarepants Lights, Camera, Pants.
Victory is mine!
Gil Hammerstein is an executive producer on the new adventures of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. He is in charge of finding the right actors to play as each supporting character, so we get SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, and Plankton to compete in different mini-games, referred to as auditions, they see who is the best fit to play as each role. He sends them to one location. Said location has a judge, being a different character from the show, as the players must go toe-to-toe in 3 auditions. By the end, the points are tallied up, and whoever has the most points gets the role for that scene. And whoever has the most points by the end of the game gets to play as the main villain. Speaking of the show, after an actor is chosen, you get to watch that location scene with the victor playing as their character.
The hermit used to be in my tap dancing class.
Well, that's a coincidence.
Uh-huh.
Since there are 6 playable characters in the game, there are actually 6 different versions of each scene. That also means there are 6 versions of the new adventures of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. And no, it's not just the same scene but with a different character reading the same lines plastered on it. Each one is written differently, taking advantage of the character's personality traits as Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy react accordingly.
My moment has arrived. Under the excellent conductorship of yours truly, Maestro Squidward, I present the Whale Philharmonic. Hit it!
That's actually really cool, especially when you take into consideration how much work that must have took. I mean, really, some of these scenes are pretty well animated for a mid-2000s PlayStation 2 game, and they can actually be pretty funny too. After beating the game, you get to see the full show with all the scenes in order. It's not just the show that's different, but also the cutscene of Gil finding out who got the role. Gil himself is a pretty entertaining character. He feels like a two-faced corporate producer, as he can switch between being easily annoyed and disinterested, or an overly gratifying show host type, who's always in fear of his boss.
Make sure you sort the good from the bad.
Of course I will. That's why you chose me.
Right.
A single playthrough of the main story has an hour's worth of scenes. As there are 6 characters, that means there's actually 6 hours worth of cutscenes in the game. It's like the cutscenes were the whole reason they made this game, and I mean that in the best and worst way.
Finally, something to do.
There are a total of 30 minigames here, each split into groups of 3 for each location. Every location has a different theme or gimmick for its games. The Krusty Krab is completely team-based, Sand Stadium are all rhythm games, and Goo Lagoon are all beach games. Most of the games are pretty alright. Every location has at least one fun game, while the others are okay. My favorite games are the Inflatable Pants, Goo Gladiators, Surface Tension, Charge, Seahorse Stampede, and Breaking Out. Once all 3 games are beaten, the score is tallied, and whoever has the most points at the end gets the location. If it ends in a tie, then a tiebreaker will commence. That tiebreaker being rock, paper, scissors. Look, I get it. Luck plays somewhat of a factor in party games, but there is something infuriating about your victory being literally dictated by rock, paper, scissors. It's like after you die, you have to play a Loves Me or Loves Me Not to decide whether or not you go to heaven or hell. Peace and tranquility, eternal damnation. Peace and tranquility, eternal damnation. Especially after playing these long-ass games. The biggest problem is that the games go on for way too long. In most party games, the minigames are usually around 1 to 2 minutes long, but here, most of the minigames average from around 3 to 5. That doesn't sound like that much of a problem, but having each game go on for that long turns good games into repetitive games. The party game makes the minigames, but the minigames don't make the party game. Okay, that probably just sounds fucking stupid, like some people die when they're killed bullshit. Let me explain. In a game like Mario Party, you and your friends are competing for stars. Whoever has the most stars at the end wins. To get the star, you need coins. So how do you get coins? The minigames. But the minigames need to be short and sweet. They've got to be fun, but not overstay their welcome. Why? You're playing these games to increase your coins, stars, droplets, or whatever you're competing for. You want to get to the point so you can see the numbers change, and thus things get more interesting. The real game is the numbers, the number of stars, the number of coins, and even the number that represents your place in the game. The mini-games are what influences the numbers, so they need to be short so they can affect the numbers efficiently. If the games are too long, regardless of how fun they are, they start becoming a distraction. The longer the game, the longer it'll take for the scores to change, and the more bored or annoyed the players become. That's what I meant by party games make the mini-games, but mini-games don't make the party game. The party game is the main focus, and the mini-games add to the overall experience. But if the mini-games try to take over and hog the spotlight, the party game feels like less of a party and more like a chore. Like I said, some of these games are fun, but they also take way too long to beat. They become repetitive, boring, and annoying to play. And it doesn't help that to beat a location, one of the players needs to pass this line on the scoreboard. If no one does, then you must go back and replay one of the games until you do. And it's not like the score you get the second time adds to the already established score. The score you and the other players get after replaying a minigame replaces the score of that same audition. So it really does become a chore. I got to the point where I started to help my opponent just so I could move on to the next set. Oops, did I do that? Oh no, you deserve it, I insist. It's my point, so I have to put it in my goal, right? It's one of those frustrating experiences, because they have all the pieces needed to make a fun party game, and just some small changes would have been enough to do that. 1. Make the game shorter. Just 1 to 2 minutes each is enough. Maybe 3 for some cases, but even that's pushing it. Maybe have a custom option to make the games longer, or make it so the game ends after a certain point range is met, rather than a time limit. But that should only be reserved for playing these games on their own, not the main story. 2. Remove rock, paper, scissors and replace it with a tiebreaker minigame. 3. Remove the point minimum for the scoreboard. If one player has more points than the rest by the end of the audition, then it shouldn't matter how many they have. Keeping them from winning just because they didn't meet a certain limit, even though they beat all of the other players, is annoying to everyone. 4. Replace one of the minigames in the Krusty Krab with a non-team game, or at least switch the teams around to the point where there's less of a chance of a tie in comparison of it being guaranteed. Yes, the Krusty Krab is the first location you go to, and no matter what you do, you are guaranteed to have a tiebreaker, so your first victory really is going to be decided by rock, paper, scissors. Besides adding some more game modes, I'd say that's all you have to do to make this game great. All of the pieces are there, most of the mini-games are fun, and the story mode is great. You just need to adjust them accordingly. But as it is, Lights, Camera, Pants overstays its welcome. What? Were you expecting me to use this as an opportunity to joke about the show running for way too long? Oh, come on, that's low-hanging fruit. What do you think I am, the cartoon community? Jesus!